welcome to something to talk about.
Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About. My name is Taco, and I got one of those A Song of Ice and Fire. What's the differences for you? So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I had some big characters like in a row. So just covered Marcella Baratheon a bit ago, so now we got Benjen Stark. That's a pretty big character. And yeah, so if I don't dilly-dally as much as I normally do, which is probably a good thing, but I think I'm the only person who likes dillying and dallying as much as I do. So if you don't know what's going on here, my name is Taco. I don't do any editing. I'm just going to kind of yell at you guys about nerd stuff, specifically Benjen Stark and the difference between the show version and the book version. And I'm going to start with just telling you guys who House Stark is, which is a silly ritual I do around here where I the whole point is to tell you about smaller houses when I cover them. But every once in a while I cover Starks. You guys probably know who House Stark is. And then I'm going to show you or talk about book version. And then, I'm going to tell you guys about show version and then book version. And it's a pretty long one. So, yeah. So we're going, man. House Stark. Also, I woke up stuffed up and I don't care. I'm going to do this. I need to film this week if I want to stay caught up. So I'm going to film anyway. So if I seem a little under the weather, it's because I am. All right. House Stark. House Stark of Winterfell is one of the great houses of Westeros and the principal noble house of the North. In the days of old, they were kings of winter, but since Aegon's conquest, they have just been wardens of the North because of that one guy who knelt. They ruled as lords of Winterfell. Their seat, Winterfell, is an ancient castle renowned for its strength. The Starks have a reputation of long faces. Why the long face? Genetics, actually. Brown hair and gray eyes. Some are known for their melancholy iciness, while others have a wildness, which is called the wolf's blood. Yeah, you're either a cold Stark or a wolf Stark, right? Those are like the two Starks, like Ned, cold Stark, right? Brandon, wolf Stark, right? Arya, wolf Stark. Jon Snow, even though he wargs, it's kind of more of a cold Stark. You guys get what I'm saying. Let's play Wolf and Cold. That's fun. The Starks have I already said that. Their sigil is a gray direwolf racing across a white field. Their words are winter is coming. One of the only few house mottos that is a warning, not a boast. Yeah, they're not like winter is coming and it's because of us. It's our fault. No, it's like sad and depressing. They're melancholy folk. All right, let's talk about the show. Benjen Stark and the television adaptation Game of Thrones. Benjen is portrayed by Joseph. Let's go with Mawle. All right. And in season 6, in a flashback, Matteo Elezi. So yeah, that's like the kid version during the flashback. Benjen Stark is the youngest child of the third son of Lord Rickard Stark. He attended the Great Tourney at Harrenhal. Benjen is younger than his brother Brandon, Eddard, and sister Lyanna, or is the younger brother of them. There you go. Rickard, Brandon, and Lyanna are all killed during Robert's rebellion. Eddard inherits his father's titles and responsibilities, so Benjen joins the Night's Watch, where he earned the rank of First Ranger. Benjen is viewed as a hero by his nephew, Jon Snow. Benjen travels south from the Wall to attend the feast welcoming King Robert Baratheon to Winterfell. This is, like first episode. You guys know about this. He tells Ned that the young Night's Watch deserter he executed was a good and loyal man who would not desert his post lightly. Yeah, he probably saw some ice demons. Jon Snow asked to join the Night's Watch despite Benjen's warning that is a hard knock life for them. Ned agrees and to become the hand of the king. So a few days later, the royal party heads south and Benjen accompanies them to the King's Road and then escorts Jon and Tyrion Lannister north of the Wall. Along their way, they are joined by some fresh recruits. I believe Rast is one of them. Yeah, some nasty folk. All right, going north of the Wall. So once at the Wall, Jon begins to realize that the Watch may not be what he thought it was. Benjen tells him that he is going north of the wall for ranging. Jon asks if he can go with him, but Benjen tells him that he's not ready yet, and cautions that on the wall, a man only gets what he earns, not what his birth entitles him. I'm going to talk about that more when it comes to the book thing. Benjen says farewell to his friend Yoren, a recruiter of the Night's Watch, and also exchanges words with Tyrion, who is about to head south with Yoren. Benjen feels that Tyrion holds the watch in disregard despite Tyrion's protests to the contrary. Only days after leaving, Benjen's horse returns to Castle Black without Benjen. Shortly after, two of the rangers who accompany Benjen, Othar and Jaffer Flowers, are found dead. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm going to be spending a lot more time on all this stuff during the book. If this is your first time, I don't like spending equal amount of times. Chances are, if you've experienced either the show or the book or both, you either have done both or most likely you've only watched the show. So that's why the show's more of just to remind you about certain things. I don't get into all the scenes and the dialogue like I do when I'm covering the book. So yeah. Where are they? Yeah. So they find some dead bodies, Othar and Jaffer Flowers. They are brought back to Castle Black for Maester Aemon to study. But in the middle of the night, they reanimate as whites. Both are killed again and their bodies are burned. Lord G.R. Mormont vows to take the watch beyond the wall to force to investigate what's going on, and promises Jon that they will find Benjen alive or dead or whitified. When beyond the wall, Craster tells Gior that he hasn't seen him. I haven't even seen him. So now we're skipping all the way to season 5 after Jon is elected Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Alistair and Ollie, wow, we're already jumping here, guys. Lure him into a trap by claiming a wildling saw Benjen at Hardhome. However, it is revealed that it is nothing but a ruse, a dirty trick, a ploy, as Alistair and Ollie and 4 other Black brothers proceed to fatally stab Jon to death. Dun, dun, dun. All right, one slide left. Show, hooded figure. Did I say spoilers? I didn't. Absolutely spoilers. Spoilers for show and book. I usually say that early on. Hopefully we're good. Absolutely spoilers, guys, for the show and the book. Don't watch this if you don't want to be spoiled. Benjen appears in a vision experienced by Benjen Stark. The young Benjen is training with Ned at Winterfell and later sees him depart for the Eyrie. I kind of summed that one down a lot because I didn't want to do 4 slides, but it's a little more involved than that. It's a little bit more of a scene. And then beyond the wall, when Bran and Mira Reed's friend of the channel are being chased by an army of whites, a hooded figure, a hooded figure arrives atop a horse, wielding a flaming chain, and rescues the pair. When the whites become too many to fight, he pulls them onto his horse and rides away. The next day, the hooded man feeds Bran the blood of a dead rabbit and says that that he arrived to help because the 3-eyed raven requested it. When Bran asks who he is, he pulls down his scarf and his hood, revealing himself as Benjen. Whoa. He explains that during the fateful ranging beyond the wall, he was attacked by white walkers, one of whom stabbed him and left him for dead. He was discovered by the children of the forest, who prevented him from becoming a white walker by shoving a piece of dragon glass into his chest. Benjen escorts them to the weirwood tree near the wall. When Mira asks why he cannot travel any further south, he explains that there are ancient spells in the wall that prevent the dead from passing through it. Benjen says he will continue to fight for the living as long as he can before departing. Almost done. Benjen comes in at the last moment to save Jon Snow. This is way later on when Jon Snow's north of the wall by himself. He's doing some shenanigans, right? So Jon Snow is left alone. He's slaying whites from his horse. And when he stops in front of Jon, he jumps off his horse and reveals himself to Jon. After saving Jon, Jon asks him to come back with him, but Benjen refuses, probably for the same reasons he did with Mira and Bran. He pulls a flaming morning star to make a final stand as the whites swarm him. Benjen fights, but is eventually overwhelmed and killed by the army of the dead. All right, that's show stuff. That's quite a lot. Sorry, I didn't give you guys spoilers a little early. Lots of differences. All right, let's get into them. Starting off with Benjen Stark. This book Benjen Stark. Benjen Stark, also known as Ben Stark, is the first Ranger of the Watch. Benjen was the youngest child of Lord of Rickard Stark and Lady Lyanna Stark. Benjen is observant, genial, and also shares his brother Eddard's dislike for House Lannister. We'll get to it. He is known to enjoy summer wine, so he tells Jon. We'll also get to that. The first Ranger is a likely successor to Jorah Mormont, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. The Gaunt Benjen has sharp features and blue-gray eyes. In which a hint of laughter is often present. Yeah, he always looks a little happy. The Thin Ranger has long legs. He's got long shanks, if you will. Benjen dresses in all black as befits a man of the Night's Watch. On formal occasions, he wears rich velvet high leather boots, a silver buckle on his wide belt, and a heavy silver chain. He attends the tourney at Harrenhal back in the day with siblings. Yeah, so now I'm doing some history. I'm getting a jump start on the history. He attended the tourney at Harrenhal with his siblings Brandon, Eddard, and Lyanna in 281 AC. At the tournament, Lyanna rescues her father's vassal, Howland Reed, from an attack by 3 squires. Benjen offers Howland a horse and some armor so he could challenge the attackers. But the mysterious Knight of the Laughing Tree does it all for him, though. All right, we're going to stick with that, right? So, yeah, a lot of these slides were getting a little bloated, so I kind of took the history one and shoved it up to what I normally do as the profile one. So, yeah, joining the watch. During the feast at the start of the tournament in Harrenhal, he teases Lyanna when she cried for a song or a sad and beautiful song that Prince Rhaegar Targaryen plays, right? He plays the song on the harp. Lyanna starts to cry, and Benjen makes fun of her for it. Were you gonna cry? He probably said something like that. Lyanna poured wine over his head for teasing her. I like that they're alone. They're all like young teens. And they're getting drunk, too. Like their parents aren't even there. When a black brother from the Night's Watch spoke up during the feast, attempting to convince the gathered people to join the Black Brothers, Benjen takes the plea to heart. The first time that Benjen got well and truly drunk, he was younger than 14. That might have been at Tourney Harrenhal. That kind of matches up. During Robert's Rebellion, he was left as the, quote, Stark in Winterfell. Benjen joined the Night's Watch within a few months of Eddard's return north, and his reasons are mostly unknown. We don't really know why. Benjen took his vows in front of the Heart Tree located within the haunted forest north of the Wall. The same one that, Jon Snow and Sam and Satin do later, right? Benjen's skills served him well as a ranger, and he quickly rose to the position of first ranger. Mance Rayder came to consider Benjen the bane of the free folk. Yeah, Benjen's really good at taking care of them free folk. Benjen visits Winterfell on several occasions over the years. During one of these visits, Bran Stark asked his uncle about the mysterious Night Fort. Benjen and Eddard had discussed repopulating the gift by raising new lords. All right. So they could function as a shield against the wildlings. Benjen was convinced that Jorah Mormont could be convinced to part with the land on the condition that the taxes are paid to Castle Black instead of Winterfell. That's actually a really good idea. I like that idea. It's a pretty good idea. All right, let's keep going. Robert's Feast. When King Robert Baratheon arrives in North, you guys know this stuff. Lord Eddard Stark sends word to Benjen at the Wall. During the feast, Benjen is one of the last of the High Lords to enter the Great Hall and sit on the dais, right? Like everybody comes in, you know how High Lords like to do, you know, like you got like Ned comes out with the Queen and Robb comes out with Myrcella Baratheon. It's a thing, right? And then the last two are Benjen and then right after Theon Greyjoy, and they'll sit up at the dais. Yeah. Bran Stark is impresses his uncle by reciting the names of the Night's Watch castles along the wall. Benjen approaches Jon Snow and Ghost, saying, what should I do with a voice? My throat kind of hurts. I don't want to do anything too much. Should I do deep like this? Benjen Stark. I don't know. Maybe should I just do my own voice? Is this one of the direwolves I've heard so much about? Oh, no. See, I even did it wrong. Is this one of the direwolves I heard so much of? Jon happily tells him yes, and that his name is Ghost. Ben grabs Jon's wine cup and tastes it, saying, summer wine, nothing so sweet. See, that's the only line of what it's like, oh, we know he likes summer wine. No, he just said that there's nothing so sweet. I don't know. It's some sweet wine. How many cups have you had, Jon? Jon just smiles. Like, and Benjen goes on, as I feared. Well, I believe I was younger than you the first time I got truly and sincerely drunk. Looks like I'm doing that for the voice. It happened naturally. Ben snags an onion from the nearby trencher and bit into it. That's the picture we got. I love that there was actually multiple pictures for me to choose from of Benjen stabbing an onion. I love it. All right. Where was I? So, yeah, he bit into it. Ben observes that Ghost is a very quiet wolf. Jon confirms that that's why he named him Ghost. Ben goes on to say that they still hear direwolves beyond the wall during rangings. They talk about how Jon isn't eating at the high table and about how Lady Stark and the Queen, like they just talk, right? Jon points out that the Queen might be angry because Ned took Robert to the crypts. Jon says, or Benjen says, you don't miss much, do you, Jon? We could use a man like you on the wall. See, he started it. Jon goes on to say that he is a better sword than his brother, and Ben answers notable achievements. Then the youth rashly asks if he'd be allowed to join the watch. Ben studies his face and says, the wall is a hard place for a boy, Jon. Boom. Jon wants to join. Yeah, we're already at that. Jon says that Luwin told him bastards grow up faster than other children, and about how the young dragon captured Dorne at the age of 14. Ben hits him with some history, pointing out, conquest that lasted a summer. Your boy king lost 10,000 men taking the place, and another 50 trying to hold it. Someone should have told him that war isn't a game. Also, Daeron Targaryen was 18 when he died. Or have you forgotten that part? Yeah, he's just like, yeah, dude, and it didn't really work out, did it? Jon is bold from the wine and says that he forgets nothing and that he wants to serve the watch. Ben tells him that he doesn't know what he's asking, and that he's only a boy of 14 and he hasn't known a woman yet and doesn't know what he is giving up. Jon claims that he doesn't care about that. I don't care about women's. Well, you will eventually. Once you meet Ygritte, you're going to be like, oh, whoa, what's up? Cute ladies. Ben replies, you might if you knew what it meant. If you knew what the oath cost you, you might be less eager to pay the price, son. Jon shouts that he is not Benjen's son. I'm not your son. Yeah. Is that what would be that? B plus L equals J? Is that theory? Benjen Stark stood up. More's the pity, he says, and he puts a hand on Jon's shoulder. Come back to me after you fathered a few bastards of your own, and then we'll see how you feel. Jon angrily leaves the table after that. Like, I'm never fathering any bastards. Bye. And drunkenly crashes into his servant girl during the retreat and runs off. Nevertheless, Benjen approaches Maester Luwin about Jon, informing the Maester that about Jon's questions. This leads Luwin to informing Eddard, and eventually Eddard approves of Jon joining the Watch. Going to the wall. Benjen is part of Robert's party when the king hunts for bear in near Winterfell. Tyrion Lannister accompanies Benjen and Jon when they travel north of the Wall. Benjen shared his brother's disdain for Lannisters, and he was not pleased when Tyrion had told him of his intentions. And he goes, "I warn you, Lannister, you'll find no inns at the Wall," he said, looking down at him, because he's Tyrion short. Tyrion reassured him that he is very small and will fit in, and he will find a place for him. Yeah, I can fit a lot of places. You can't say no to the Queen's brother, but Ben was clearly unhappy, telling Tyrion, "You will not like the ride, I promise you." So since the morning they set out, Ben had done all he could to live up to the promise. After a week of riding, Tyrion's thighs were raw, but he did not complain. He'd be damned if he would give Benjen Stark that satisfaction. He took small revenge in the matter of his riding fur, the tattered bearskin, old and musty smelling fur that Benjen had offered him just to be nice, not expecting Tyrion to accept, but Tyrion accepted it with a smile. Yeah, this is kind of like super hilarious, right? So Benjen's like, "Dude, I don't like you. You don't like me. Let's just stay out of each other's faces." And Tyrion's like, "All right, if you're going to be a jerk about it." And then Benjen's like, "It's going to be cold. You want this?" And he's just saying it to be nice, right? Like if somebody's in your house for a second and you're like, "Hey, you want something to drink?" You don't think they're going to say yes. I mean, they might, but it's like, you're just supposed to be like, "Hey, you want some water?" And Tyrion's like, "Yeah." Benjen's like, "Oh, God damn it." And Tyrion takes the dude's jacket. And the whole time he's like, "This is rather warm. Should have brought something for yourself, Benjen." Benjen's like, "I didn't have brought that, you bastard." But yeah, Tyrion goes on to say that, the Lannisters take what they're offered. So yeah. Where was I? So yeah, he didn't think he would accept, but he did with a smile. The nights were well below freezing now, and no doubt Ben regretted the chivalrous impulse. Once they made it to the Wolfswood, their party was Benjen, Jon, and Tyrion with 2 Lannister men, and then they are joined by Yoren and 2 peasant boys who were bad people. It's a word I don't want to say, but they attack women. Peasant boys from the Fingers. So 5 men, 3 boys, and a direwolf, and 20 horses, because Ned gave Ben some horses to bring up, which is really cool. And a cage of ravens given over to Benjen Stark by Maester Luwin. Yeah, he's getting some stuff. That's probably why people like Benjen at the Wall, because he knows that his brother Ned can just give him some stuff. Well, Stark and Yoren and the other men erected crude shelters to sleep in and tended the horses. Tyrion just went off to read. He's like, "Yeah, all that work looks hard. Peace. Go read me a comic book." Tyrion Lannister. At the Wall, once back at Castle Black, Benjen is busy with his duties as First Ranger and does not have much time for Jon, he is spending his time with Jorah Mormont and Maester Aemon and the other high officers. Jon thinks Ben has become an entirely different person. Yeah, he's at work. I'm different when I'm at work too. I'm trying to get work done. Jon has no friends among the 20 recruits. And 3 days after their arrival, Jorah Mormont sends Benjen with 6 rangers to find Waymar Royce, who has not returned from the prologue, ranging beyond the Wall. That night, he sought out his uncle, so this is right before he leaves, right, in the great timbered common hall, and pleaded with him to go with him, right? He's like, "Can I go with?" Benjen refuses him curtly as he cut his meat with a fork and dagger. "This is not Winterfell. On the Wall, a man only gets what he earns. You are no ranger, Jon, only a green boy with the smell of summer still on you." First off, he keeps saying this like it doesn't matter where you grew up. This is the Wall. That's such crap. Like, ask Satin if it matters where you grew up later on, right? We find out that all this crap Benjen is saying about, like, just because you grew up at Winterfell, it doesn't mean anything. Really? Then how come all the High Rangers have a Sir in front of them? Oh, yeah, because they're all in last names, right? Like, try I'm just saying, it's like the biggest obstacle one of the biggest obstacles that Jon fights with later on is once he's Lord Commander, trying to give people promotions that aren't from big houses or at least bastards of great houses, right? So I just like, it makes me roll my eyes going back and listening to these chapters, which I did, where Benjen's like, you only get what you earn, has nothing to do with last names. By the way, my name is Benjen Stark, and I was promoted to First Ranger right away. You butthole. You're lying. You know you're lying. All right. So Jon tries to argue, but Ben frowns. You are a boy. A boy you are. A boy you'll remain until Sir Alistair says that you are fit to be a man of the Night's Watch. If you thought your Stark blood would win you easy favors, you're wrong. Bullshit. We put aside our old families when we swear our vows. Your father will always have a place in my heart, but these are my brothers now. Bullshit. He gestures with his dagger at all the men around them. All hard and cold, men in black. Jon watches him leave the next day. Ben asks him, how often must I tell you, Jon? How often must I tell you no, Jon? We'll speak when I return, which always means he doesn't, right? As he watches his uncle lead his horse into the tunnel, in his mind's eye, he sees Benjen Stark lying dead, his blood red in the snow. The thought made him sick. Yeah, I totally didn't remember about that little detail about Ben leaving until I re-listened to re-listened and read for this video. I totally forgot that Jon just like has a quick little vision about Benjen dying, and then he like tries to blank it out. That's nuts. All right, missing. Benjen thinks that they might have to search as far as the Shadow Tower. There was no word from Benjen, Jeremy Riker. When there is no word from Benjen, I was doing so good until now. Jeremy Riker leads 2 sweeps in search for him, while Corn Halfhand leads another search party going north from the Shadow Tower. Nothing is found except for a few blazes in the trees Benjen used to mark his way. The mark stop in the Stony Highlands to the northwest, and all traces of Benjen vanish. Jeremy takes over command of the Rangers in Benjen's absence. The bodies of the Rangers Othor and Jaffer Flowers, who had accompanied Benjen in this ranging, are later found, just like in the show, in the Weirwood Grove near the wall. There is no trace of Benjen or any others. However, that night, the 2 corpses rise as whites at Castle Black and attempt to kill Lord Commander Mormont. But Jon saves him, although Jaffer's body kills Sir Jeremy Riker and 4 other men. Dywyn and Hake also unsuccessfully search for Ben. Gior plans to find Benjen either dead or alive and makes it one of the goals of the Great Ranging. Gior expects Theon Smallwood's Gior rejects Thorin Smallwood's insistence that he is now First Ranger, with Benjen missing, insisting that until they find a body, he is not dead. And that becomes like a really big thing. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm the First Ranger now because there's no First Ranger. Gior keeps going, no, you're not. Like, when we find out he's dead, I will replace him. But until then, shut up, all right? Gior just, like, will not. So, yeah. I know in the show, and I didn't bring this up, but in the show, Alistair gets named First Ranger, like, really quickly, or maybe it's really quickly, but eventually. And that is not something that happens in the books. So, where was I? Commander Mormont leads 300 sworn Brothers of the Night's Watch, including 200 from Castle Black and another 100 from the Shadow Tower. North beyond the wall, this is the Great Ranging. This is the biggest ranging in living memory, consisting of near a third of the Night's Watch strength. Let's hope they don't all die. Most of them die. Still missing. Holy crap. When arriving at Craster's Keep, the Lord Commander asked Craster whether he had seen Benjen recently, as Benjen was supposed to have passed the keep during his ranging the previous year. Craster claims that he has not seen Benjen in 3 years. He's like, no, I don't even like him. Gior believes that Benjen cannot fail to notice the trail of 200's men of the Night's Watch, and their horses leave behind in their great ranging. And he is convinced that if Benjen is alive, he will be able to find his brothers at the Fist of the First Men. Yeah, it's really hard to miss 300 people marching, right? Mance Rayder, the king beyond the wall at this point, tells Jon, so this is skipping ahead. I'm going to keep skipping ahead because we're almost done. Tells Jon that one of his reasons for infiltrating King Robert's feast at Winterfell, yeah, that's something that Mance does. He's, according to Mance, in the feast in the first couple chapters, right, was to evaluate Benjen as first ranger. Sir Alistair Thorne accuses Jon of being a turncloak and ponders if the missing Benjen is conspiring with Mance. Ooh, that's messed up. Black Jack Bowler has replaced Benjen as first ranger. Finally, they replace him. Bran Stark witnesses a vision from the past in which he sees a boy and a girl playing with wooden branches in the Godswood of Winterfell. Some readers, including me, believe this to have been Benjen and his older sister Lyanna Stark, as Bran describes the girl as being the eldest of the two and states that she looks like her sister Arya, who is said to look like Lyanna, right? Additionally, the girl refers to Old Nan, placing the event Bran witnesses having taken place in the more recent generations. I mean, it doesn't narrow it down too much. Old Nan's been there for freaking a long time, but, you know, not thousands of years, right? All right, there you go. You notice I didn't play a Poochie's Dead because we don't know. We don't know what's going on with Benjen. And you noticed already a huge omission, right? I don't talk about when they run into him again because in the books, they don't. That's a completely different character, which I will talk about very briefly in my differences, right? So, yeah. They got him mostly right at the beginning. The first submission is his relationship with Tyrion, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, they don't really do that whole like cloak thing. They have one scene with him in the show, but it's not as I don't know. I really like their kind of like back and forth like frenemy relationship, him and Tyrion. They then kind of give the speech, which I left out. I didn't talk about it, but the speech he gives to Jon, that they've taken from Donald Noy to kind of fill out the conversation about how you get what you earn, or you earn your way at the watch. So I know that was a jumbled sentence. So in the books and the show, Benjen is like trying to convince or trying to explain to Jon that you get what you earn, right? Like you don't just get anything, which is mostly crap, right? He has pretty much that same chapter. I think it's that same chapter in the books. Jon has a conversation with Donald Noy that's like a lot more specific about you beating up the other recruits. Like you shouldn't be you had a man at arms, they didn't, right? So those scenes are really similar. So instead of creating Donald Noy, which was one of my favorite characters, I've done a video for Donald Noy a long time ago. They kind of just combined that scene with Donald Noy and gave all that dialogue to Ben, which makes sense. I think that makes sense. So except I love Donald Noy. Also, we barely see, where was I? Yeah. Also, we barely see Ben at the wall in the book. By the time we even get to Jon's first chapter in the book, which I covered, Ben is already gone and we see his departure in a flashback. Yeah, all that stuff about him going and watching him leave and all that, that's in a flashback. By the time we actually get Jon's first chapter, Ben's out already. Then a huge one is when he comes back into the show and they give him the book character, Cold Hands roles. So there's a character in the book, which I'm not going to cover up too much. This is not a Cold Hands video. But they give him Cold Hands' story, which is this guy who's very mysterious. He might be Benjen. He might not be Benjen. I don't think he's Benjen. I'll cover it more on the slide. But he does help out Bran and company. And yeah, so they kind of give, and Sam, they kind of give him Cold Hands role, but not really. Not really at all. I will explain here in a second. Yeah. By the time we get Yeah, sorry, he's already gone. So the huge one is the cold hands role, but a lot lesser of a role. He just hops in and helps Bran when Jon and then Jon, both in instances that take place after the books, because in the books, Bran is still at Bloodraven's cave, still at the Greenseer's cave. And in the show, that's when it's on his way back with Mira after the Hodor thing, is when Benjen Cold Hands jumps in. But that's all after the book, right? So, yeah, so not really. So he's Cold Hands-esque, but he's not actually in those scenes. I guess I understand, since it's still up in the air if Ben is Cold Hands or not. Notes to the editor side, because Jon's literally sent a note to his editor that they are not. And it simplifies things, right? Why bring in another character, just like the Donald Noy thing? Why bring in another character, right? But the scenes that they use Undead Ben for are after the books. He is not in Cold Hands' actual scenes. So it's just super weird that they use him here in a Cold Hands role, but not in actually Cold Hands' role. If you want Cold Hands, if you want to do the Cold Hands Benjen scene, reduce him way back when Sam and Gilly are headed for the wall, like in the books. That's when he comes in the books. And then later have him help Hodor, Jojen, Mira, and Bran up to Bloodraven's cave. Like, actually give him Cold Hands' scenes then. That's weird. All right, so that's it. I'm done complaining. We're almost done. I gotta get out of here. Are you still one of the holdouts that think Cold Hands is Benjen? If not, where do you think Benjen is? This is a what's the difference, so I normally don't do conspiracies. Or not, I don't do theories, not conspiracies, theories about it, but there are plenty of really good ones out there about where Benjen is. And I'm not going to share them because I don't want this video to keep going. This is a long video. So thank you guys for watching. That's a really big character. Definitely one of the bigger ones next to Marcella Baratheon that I've ever covered on Let's Talk About the Differences. And this is Tuesday, and Saturday, I have another character I didn't think was going to be gigantic. So I am covering Glendon Ball or Glendon Flowers on Saturday. And when I first put him on my list, I wasn't like going through the books and actually like taking out all their dialogue and literally taking out all their stuff from the books like I'm doing now. I just used to be a lot more lax. Now I do heavy detail, and since Glendon's half of the frickin' Mystery Night book, it's gonna be I got a lot of slides, just like this one. So hope you guys like Taco, me, not the food. I hope you like the food too. It's good. But I hope you like me, because you're getting 2 really big videos this week. So yeah, thank you. Please like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. And I hope you enjoyed. So yeah, where's Benjen? Peace.